My name is Dylan Cohen. And those were the words of Canadian entrepreneur, politician, and cannabis enthusiast Marc Emery at a rally in Toronto. He was notoriously extradited shortly after to the United States to serve a 5-year prison sentence for marijuana distribution charges. When I did my audience analysis, I asked you guys if you were familiar with Marc Emery, and 90% of you said no. So I'm hoping that learning about an unfamiliar figure will intrigue everyone here. I'm going to be telling you about the life of Marc Emery, beginning with his upbringing in London, Ontario, moving on to his time as a prominent business owner in Vancouver, and finally on to his marijuana seed distribution business and extradition to the United States. I hope that when I finish, you will recognize the sacrifice Emery made to further his cause. So Marc Emery came from humble beginnings, but always fostered an entrepreneurial spirit. He was born February 13th, 1958, and at the age of 17, he dropped out of high school and bought the City Lights bookshop in London, Ontario. And London, Ontario had a bunch of really weird regulations and rules that just kind of restricted businesses in stupid ways. So, for example, there was a rule that said businesses couldn't operate on Sundays. And Emery was a really just kind of defiant and liberal guy, and he didn't think that that was really right or practical. So he decided to operate his bookstore every Sunday, and he got fined as a result, and he would refuse to pay the fine. So ultimately what happened is after he did that enough times, the police came and arrested him. And because he had the support of his local businesses and residents, they were actually able to help him out of jail. And I have a quote from Emery about the situation that says, "I refused to pay the fine and I was sent to jail. You get $30 a day off for every day you spend in jail, and the public raised $380 out of my $500 fine. So I only had to spend 4 days in jail. Then they dropped the other charges from me because I was getting too much publicity." So Marc Emery had a really good reputation within his local business community, and as a result, they were able to help him out of the trouble that he would get in when he was trying to fight for everyone's rights, being the local business owners of London. In addition to defending his bookstore, Marc Emery's passion really kind of transferred over to defending cannabis and promoting it within his community. So in 1994, he moved from London to Vancouver, and he's kind of an avid cannabis enthusiast at this point, not to the point where he gets to where he's actually selling seeds and opening stores, but he's looking for a way to kind of get started and capitalize on a sort of underground marijuana scene in Vancouver. So he opens Hemp BC, and Hemp BC is just like a hemp store. They sold books that had to do with growing, pipes, bongs, lighters, anything you guys see in a local head shop. That's what they had at Hemp BC. And what was really important about that was that technically marijuana was illegal in Vancouver, but it was kind of one of those laws that was more frowned upon than enforced. And Emery, when he got to Vancouver, he was able to really promote cannabis into the community, and as well as incorporating it into businesses and attracting other business owners to come and start their own stores. And what that ended up doing was improving the local economy of Vancouver, and that is something that ultimately bought him a lot of kind of local praise for that. And on top of opening Hemp BC, he turned it into the headquarters for his magazine, Cannabis Culture. And that was just sort of to have another medium to portray to the public all the benefits of marijuana. And on top of that, he also started the British Columbia Marijuana Party, which is just a way to kind of influence the local politics and try and get some pro-marijuana people involved. And then also at this time was when Emery decided to start selling seeds. According to Emery, on his seed selling, he stated, "There's no way the government has destroyed as much pot as I've created. One person can outdo the evil of several thousand. Don't underestimate your power." One of the things I found really fascinating about his motivation to start selling seeds was that it wasn't out of wanting to turn a profit and get rich off of it. He was trying to combat the forces that were driving marijuana to extinction, so being the government and how they destroy and get rid of cannabis. So he wanted to be a force that was helping to replenish the global stock of marijuana, and I think that that's pretty admirable, especially considering he was putting himself in the way of the government. And of course, after he starts selling seeds, his business skyrockets, and that gets the attention of the local authorities. So in 1996, Vancouver PD raid Hemp BC. They take away all of his stock, all of his seeds. They charge him with multiple offenses for distributing marijuana and paraphernalia, and he literally opens the very next day. Open shop, I don't know where he got all his inventory from, but just to make a statement, to be defiant, opens his store the next day and sparks about a little over a decade kind of back and forth with Canadian authorities. And also just because this is kind of coming around the 2000s, the internet's starting to get big, he decides to kind of transfer his business to solely online. And what that does is it expands him to the entire world. And now he's selling seeds to every country, everywhere. But unfortunately, what happened with that was that it got the attention of the United States. And according to United States Assistant Attorney Todd Greenberg, 75% of Emery's sales came from the US once he switched to the online format. So, as you can imagine, US doesn't like pot. They want it out of their country. They started to kind of pressure Canada to extradite Emery to the United States to serve a jail sentence. And when that happens, diplomatic relations between two countries, everything takes a long time. So those negotiations started in 2006, and he didn't go to jail till 2010. So now he's waiting to get out. He's expected to get out in 2014. And even still, while he's in jail, he has a tremendous influence globally, and I think that that's just something that's really amazing. But anyway, Mark Emery is ultimately going to go down as one of the few martyrs of the marijuana prohibition era. I hope you enjoyed hearing about his early life in London, Ontario, his time as a prominent business owner in Vancouver, and his marijuana seed distribution business, and his ultimate extradition to the United States. Thank you very much.